Beltone Hearing Aid Center presents The Drive.
Ready?
The Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Welcome into the Tuesday, November 6th edition. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This hour, we're going to hear from Marshall head football coach Doc Holliday, get his thoughts on the upcoming game with the Charlotte 49ers. Also, got a couple conversations for you. Ryann Bee and Chase Handcock. Had a chance to catch up with those guys today, so we're going to hear from them. Take your phone calls as well at 877-420-TALK. That's 877-420-8255. So we got a lot to get into. The Thundering Herds also playing basketball. That's getting underway tomorrow. We'll have that game for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. And as a result of basketball coverage tomorrow, no show tomorrow. Instead, we're going to go on the air 5:30 with our pregame coverage of Marshall and Eastern Kentucky. So that's coming up tomorrow. But today, we've got football and basketball to talk about. Now, at this point, we're looking ahead. We're moving on, talking about Marshall and Charlotte. The team for the past few days, they've put the loss behind them. They're focusing on the importance of this game. One, because it's the next game. You hear that a lot from these guys. Also, this is the game that marks the anniversary of the plane crash. This is the game that you remember that. You honor those guys. You play the game closest to the date of the tragedy every year, and it falls on Charlotte this year. So they'll put the 75 on their helmets, and they'll do a lot of things leading up to the game to remember those that perished in that plane crash. This is an opportunity also for Doc Holliday, his staff, to really educate the team on this is what it means, this is why this is important. So a lot of that's going on this week, and as you'll hear in some of these conversations, we'll talk about that a lot more than maybe the game itself, because that's just how important it is. But we'll still talk about the game, and Doc Holliday will get into the game as well, and we're going to hear about that here in a little bit. But going back to the loss against Southern Miss, it's easy for us to question after a fact, and I'm talking about specifically, why did Doc Holliday make the decision to replace his quarterback and put Isaiah Green back in? Kid hadn't played in a few weeks, and you put him back in under a minute to go, and then next thing you know, you've got a situation where there's a turnover, Southern Miss scores, and instead of possibly going in at halftime, the score is tied. Momentum really not on either side right now. You've got to come out and battle the second half. Instead, Southern Miss has got the momentum. They've got the lead. And you're sitting there, you're wondering, why does Doc Holliday make that decision? Again, it's easy for us to question that. I questioned it. I still questioned it. I wouldn't have done that. I'm not the head coach, though. I'm not paid to make those decisions. I work in radio. I'm not a football coach. And most of you aren't football coaches either. So we're fans, we're listeners, we're supporters, we're media. But we do have opinions, and a lot of us are scratching our head. Why do you make that? But we have moved on. Doc Holliday, though, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. First of all, after the press conference, we're getting up and getting ready to go. We've asked all our questions. We've talked to him. We're looking ahead to the game. Charlotte's our focus, because how many ways can we talk about Southern Miss? We are moving on. It's not a matter that, we just want to keep bringing it up. We don't want to keep dredging it up. It's just we've moved on. We're moving ahead. We're looking at Charlotte. Doc, we're getting up ready to go, and Doc stops us and says, basically, hang on. He wants to say something to us. And I've got that queued up for you. Doc pretty much spells out why the decision was made, why he did it, and honestly, how he felt about it before, after, and it's pretty emotional to listen to him as this audio cut goes. It's about 2 minutes. I mean, we're done with the press conference, and he basically answers the question that we kind of want to ask him, but we're not going to because we're looking ahead. We're moving on. So he does it for us, and he basically, and you'll hear, he takes all responsibility and explains why. So here's Doc Holliday. As we're leaving, he wants to say one more thing to us, and here he is talking about why that happened, why that change was made, what was going on in the decision process, and honestly, how he felt about it and how he feels about it.
You know, I think there's been some things on why we did what we did, and I'm sure would like to ask that question, but I'm going to tell you why we did what we did at the quarterback position. And I think number one, we felt like we needed a spark, all right, because offensively we weren't doing what we wanted to get done offensively. So we felt like we had a quarterback that we needed to make that change at that point, and we felt like we wanted to be aggressive at that point offensively. And hindsight's 20/20. Knowing what we know now, it probably wasn't a great decision. If he would have thrown a 30-yard seam down there and it would have been completed, and we kicked a field goal or scored a touchdown, then it probably would have been the greatest decision ever made. So that, and going back to the, if you take a look back, I'm not saying it's the same situation, but if you go back to the Middle Tennessee game that we played, we had the exact amount within 5 or 6 seconds on the clock of, I think it was 54 seconds left in the half. We were aggressive again offensively, and in 17 seconds we scored a touchdown, and we went in 17-7 at the half. All right, and which was a great decision at that point. And number one, as a head football coach, there's no question after the fact it's easiest for us to sit back and say we've made a great decision or we made a bad decision. At that point, I'll be honest with you, I feel terrible about that decision because it hurt our football team. And, I can assure you one thing, as the head football coach here, I'm responsible for all those decisions regardless. And I can assure you I love this university and I love this football team and I love what this community is all about. And we're going to work extremely hard to put these kids in a situation to win. And that's all I care about, okay? And, like I say, we're not perfect. We are on Mondays and we are on Sundays, but we're not perfect at time on Saturdays. And, again, that's a situation that we felt was the right thing to do at the time, as it turned out it wasn't, and that's on me. And I take full responsibility for that. And that being said, that like I say, we're going to do everything we can possibly do to win football games around here. I can assure you that.
So that answers the question. Why Doc do that? Thought it was the right call, looking for a spark. And I think we've been fair in our criticism. I hope we've been fair in our criticism because, on the one hand, he's exactly right. And I think I echoed that earlier throughout the week and when we were talking about it on Saturday, that if all of a sudden they don't have that turnover and they are moving the ball down the field real quick and then they get a field goal, you're thinking about, okay, that's what the Herd needed. That was a shot in the arm that the Herd needed, and they've got the momentum. And that was the great call by Doc. That was what this team needed at the right time. But instead, it results in the turnover. It results in the Southern Miss turnover and the momentum going to Southern Miss. And then they go back out, take the knee, go into the locker room at halftime, trailing. Southern Miss has got the momentum. The Herd did fight back, but turnovers did kill the Herd. That was one of them. Now, again, I would have not wanted to make that decision. I would have taken the knee, gone into the locker room at halftime, come out in the second half. I've got my quarterback change. That's what I would have done. If I was asked to make that call, what are you going to do? That's what I'm going to do. But it's not my call to make. It's Doc Holliday's call. And honestly, I hope you heard that emotion in his voice because, if you see the video on his face, he was really tearing up. He felt really bad about that and felt hurt. Not hurt that we're attacking him, and I don't think we're attacking him. Some of you might be. I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself. But he knows that hurt the team. That was a call that now, in hindsight, was a bad call. But he's right. If you move the ball, you go down the field, and all of a sudden, you're in field goal range or you get a touchdown, that's a great call. So Doc Holliday proved one thing today. He's human. You got to give him credit. He owned up to it, as he would. He's the head coach. You didn't hear him making excuses. You didn't hear him blaming his team, his coaches, anybody. Didn't put that off as, hey, that's something that the coaches drew up, whatever. It's like, hey, I'm the head coach. I make the decisions around here. Ultimately, all the decisions are on me. If I think that's a bad call, we're not going to do it. If I think it's a good call, we're going to do it. It's on me. So you got to give Doc Holliday credit for that. Some of you will, and I know some of you won't. But that's Doc's explanation for what happened. He takes ownership of it. He takes responsibility for it. He's the one that brought it up to us today. We did not ask him to address it. We did not go there as a core of media. We were done, and he wanted to talk about it and bring that up. So that was how he ended the press conference. Now, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about how he started the press conference and get into, of course, the game itself. Marshall's taking on Charlotte. We'll talk about that. We'll hear a little bit later on from Ryann Bee and Chase Handcock. We'll get into this Marshall basketball game with Eastern Kentucky. Busy week of Herd athletics coming up. It all starts tomorrow with basketball. And we'll cover it all right here on The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday edition. Paul Swann, your host for this edition of The Drive, presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center. We're getting closer to Marshall and Charlotte. That's coming up this Saturday, Jones C. Edwards Stadium. I'm looking forward to a great crowd. Again, this is an important game because this is the game in which Marshall University designates as the game we're going to honor the victims of the plane crash, and that includes players, the boosters, everyone that was on that plane crash. This is the game in which they designate, hey, we honor them every day, but we're gonna bring it out even more here, just to bring attention to it, remind our kids, our players, even maybe remind some of the members of the community why it's important. As we're getting closer to 50 years, it's still important for a lot of people. So it's a big game for Doc, and we're going to talk more about that as we progress with Doc here. But Doc, of course, as you heard at the onset of the show, and if you missed it, go back to the podcast and catch it at WRVC.com. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn. We are also on Spotify, so if you missed any part of the show, I invite you to go back and listen to it. But Doc, as he always does, addresses the media, kind of gives us an overview of what the opponent looks like. I can say this, Isaiah Green's going to be your starter. So there's that. I don't know if that's the right decision or not. We'll find out on Saturday. After all, he knows what's going on with the team. I don't, as far as the day-to-day and just what he feels he needs to succeed for his team right now. So Green's going to be your starter. He feels that Green's going to be the guy to be the one who can lead him to the most success. We'll see if that pans out for him. But here's Doc talking about the upcoming game and the opponent, Charlotte. Here's his opening statement.
As we all know, the game that we always play here closest to November 14th, 1970, is the most important game we play all year. Our players, we do a great job educating our kids of what the history of this school is all about. We bring in Keith Morehouse, who's here, of course, today, and a lot of people to try to explain what the history is to our kids. They understand it. They know the importance of it, and it's just so important that we go out there and play our best football all year on that particular date. So that's what happens to be this Saturday. I'm excited as a football coach to have all our ex-players come back and join us on the field prior to the game. That'll be the first time we've done that, and that'll be a special, special deal. So I want to encourage all those guys that are out there to get back and join us and help us go play a really great game against a team, Charlotte, who Brad Lambert, who we all know, has done a great job with. I mean, you look at them, and statistically, defensively, they're one of the top teams in America. I mean, they held Tennessee last week to 19 yards rushing. Tennessee's offense scored 7 points. Their other 7 points came off of punt returns. So they play great defense. They do a good job controlling the ball offensively, and like I say, to Brad's credit, he's done a great job. He'll have his kids well prepared, and we got to make sure that ours are as well. So I know it's going to be a great day. The weather's going to be great. We're looking forward to a great crowd and excited about the game.
To follow up on that, Doc was asked about the significance of this game. You know, do the players know the significance of what this game's about? And here's his response to that.
Well, they need to. You know, like I said, that's why Keith, we work, and you're part of that. I mean, we work extremely hard educating these kids on what, when they come in here, a lot of them, they've seen the movie, and that's been about the extent of it, and from that point on, we try to do a great job this week, and, Mark Gale does a great job, and, Rev, and, we have a lot of people that, we do something every day to make sure these kids understand how important this game is and what it means to our community, our fan base, and our school, and so, by the time game rolls around, normally they've got a good understanding of how important it is, and this week will be no different.
On to the game itself, Doc was asked a question about how this team matches up. Specifically, does Doc like a game like this? Because if you look at Charlotte, their strength is going to be the run defense. Check that. Their strength is going to be their running game. Marshall's strength is going to be the run defense. So Doc was asked the question, do you like games like this where your best unit is going up against their best unit?
I think there's no doubt that, this game is very, it's going to be our defense versus, it's kind of similar, very similar teams right now at this point, offensively and defensively. I think we're playing pretty good defense as well. So it's going to be a battle of defense, and like seem like they always do. Is you got to find a way to win that turnover battle. That's what it's going to come down to. That's what every game we've played this year, we take care of the ball, we've won. So we're 5-0, we take care of the football. So if we got to find a way to make sure we do that again this week.
Always a Marshall tie. Doesn't matter what it is. You can dig deep enough. There's always a Marshall connection. You don't have to dig too deep. You've got Brad Lambert. That's your Marshall connection for this one. And Doc was asked about the progression of not just Coach Lambert, but what he's been able to do with his team. Here's Doc's response to that.
The one thing, Brad, he does a tremendous job of coaching those guys up. They're extremely well coached. He does a great job with that. Obviously, he's done a good job recruiting. He's got some guys on defense as well as offensively that can play. So, I'm just I'm happy for Brad every Saturday except for this one. I'm happy that he's doing well, and he's got that team playing really hard. But we got to find a way to beat them this week.
One key component this game is the running attack of Charlotte. Benny LeMay, you look at him, he's their junior running back. He is ranked right now third in rushing Conference USA. He is averaging almost 92 yards a game, and he's averaging almost 118 all-purpose yards a game. So he's going to be a focal point for the Thundering Herd for sure. So Doc was asked about him. The fact that he was pretty much a handful the last time the Thundering Herd faced off against him, but it seems like he's gotten bigger, and Doc's response to that.
He is. He's about 5'8", about 5'9". He's about 5'10". He's about 230 pounds. He's very physical. I don't know. I know I heard Coach Fuller when we were meeting last night with the defense that show me 5 clips where somebody has brought him down. He's similar to Singletary. He's hard to get tackle with just one guy. He makes the first guy miss. And, so you got to rally to the ball as we did with Singletary. It'll be the same type of challenge we had there, but he's a bit more bigger, a little more physical.
Moving on to the defensive unit for Charlotte. Question was asked of Doc about just the talent they have, and here's Doc's appraisal of that unit.
Yeah, they do. They haven't got that safety back there. It just makes plays all over the place, and their right tackle is an NFL guard. He's going to be a draft pick in the NFL as a guard, and he's playing right tackle for him. But they got good players, and they had that back LeMay a year ago that was a couple years ago, a really good player, and so he's done a nice job. they got great facilities, it's a great location, and I think somebody told me, and it wasn't like that when I was at NC State, but there's like 30 or 35 Division I prospects in the Charlotte area this year. So that's it's a great recruiting area for them, and they've done a nice job of getting those kids to stay home.
On the flip side, the question was asked of Doc just to kind of evaluate his defense. Defense did play pretty well in that loss against Southern Miss.
We did. We did. Unfortunately, we got the one fake field goal where, Drayton had him covered, and unfortunately we got the interference call there. And be honest with you, they got the jailbreak screen and they got the reverse. That was about the extent of it, and a couple penalties on there that were, But that being said, we got to play. We got to eliminate the penalties, and we got to eliminate penalties, and we got to take care of the ball. That's where that game was lost. So we got to do a better job of doing those things.
I think that's a fair evaluation. It wasn't the offensive showcase for both of these teams, but if you do look at where the Thundering Herd did not succeed, hanging on to the ball. That was one of the big problems for Marshall. If Marshall hangs on to the ball, well, I think you're already talking about a game that's a little bit more competitive, and I think you're talking about a game that Marshall might have won. But that is something in the past now, and something that's also in the past, and hopefully it doesn't carry over into the future, is Tyree Brady. 1 reception, 17 yards. Doc was asked, how do you get him more involved in this game?
We got to do a better job of making plays, putting him in position to make plays, and when he's unfortunately in that game we did not make enough plays, offensively to win the game. So that being said, we got to do a better job taking care of it, and when we get the opportunity to make plays, we got to throw it and we got to catch it.
That's Doc Holliday from earlier this afternoon. When we come back, we've got a couple of conversations to get to you. We got Ryann Bee. We're going to get his thoughts on the upcoming game, talking about the memorial itself, the game surrounding that. Also, Chase Handcock, we're going to hear from him. If we get time, we'll hear from Nazeeh Johnson, maybe a little Malik Gant for you as well. We'll talk some Herd basketball and take your phone calls at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. We've got more on the way. It's The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center. You're listening to The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann. ESPN 94.1 FM, AM 930. You can also catch us online, WRVC.com. We've got coming up Chase Handcock, going to get his thoughts in a few minutes as far as the game, Charlotte, the significance of everything. But first up, I had a chance earlier this afternoon to catch up with Ryann Bee. And I started out asking Ryan just to kind of give me an outline, talk to me a little bit about the game itself. You've got Charlotte, and at the same time, everything that goes into the fact that this is the game you honor the 75 victims of the Marshall plane crash. And here's Ryann Bee from earlier this afternoon addressing that question and more.
We say every game's a big game because it's the next one, but this one's just bigger, because it's the anniversary and remembering, why and how we're all here because of those 75 people. And, it just takes that much more to lock in, prepare this week, and make sure we honor them the right way.
What's this game mean to you? You've been around for a while. What's this game personally meant to you or mean to you?
Oh, just like I said, just honoring them. Without them, we wouldn't be here. Playing football today, and honoring them with the win is very important. I've been here for 5 years, or going on 5 years, and we've never lost this game. So it's important to keep that tradition up.
And you got the younger guys who maybe haven't been through this yet or haven't experienced it the way you have. Is there any you talking to them, telling them what to expect, what to feel, or what's going to happen?
Oh, absolutely. We've been talking about it in team meetings and in the locker room and stuff. We got a lot of new coaches here too that haven't been able to witness that. Been to the fountain ceremony and stuff like that. So it's a big week for just reminding them of what all that means to the program.
Yeah, and not to get lost. Charlotte's coming in as well, so there's that to deal with. What's your early impression? What have you seen of them so far?
As far as up front, their offensive line, they got a lot of returning guys. We've been playing the same alignment for like 3 or 4 years now. So we've been around each other, and just another challenge. Their quarterback, he's a shifty guy. He can get out of the pocket and extend plays, run the ball. So just a big challenge with the D-line is getting around him and keeping him contained and getting him on the ground.
The last couple of years, it's sort of been a dogfight with Charlotte. They came in 2016 and squeaked one out, and then last year it was sort of one of those, defensive struggle type games. And it seems like they're starting to find their identity as a program and be that running physical team, which is kind of a different dynamic from CUSA teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlotte's a team that they got a veteran group of offensive linemen. They're gonna want to establish a run game, and obviously it's our job as a defensive line and defense in general is to stop that. You want to make them one dimensional. So that's going to be an emphasis this week in practice. Just stopping the run and forcing them to pass.
What have you seen from Benny LeMay, their running back? Like, what does he bring to the table that maybe some other guys don't?
He's a guy right up there. He's one of the top running backs in our league. He's not going to just fall down after the first tackle. He's going to take hits and keep moving the balls. We got to rally around him and get him on the ground as a kind of gang tackle him, I guess.
What has been your all's biggest success, especially in the run game? I mean, you all been consistent throughout the years in limiting the opposition. What makes you all successful in rush defense?
I think just that, like I said, the whole defense running to the ball. We make it a point in practice. Is by the time the film stops, we want at least like 9 or 10 guys in the screen at least, just so we're corralling around the ball to get it on the ground, no matter who we're playing that week, whether they're more of a run team or not. Just make it a habit.
They're kind of built around their defense and field position and that kind of thing. How does that show up in their offense? Is this a team that's just wanting to move the chains, but not going to do something crazy, willing to punt and play field position, that kind of thing?
Well, they're an offense that they're going to take their shots just as much as anyone else to kind of stretch out that defense a little bit. Let the DBs and stuff know that they're willing to take shots just as well as they're able to run it. So it's just another thing we got to prepare for and lock in for.
That's Ryann Bee from earlier. Now, we got a chance to catch up with Chase Handcock as well. And same line of questioning just to start out. Just want to get Chase's thoughts on the fact that this is the week where you honor the 75. You've got Charlotte coming in, so that's important. You want to win the game, but everything else that goes along with it. And so here's Chase answering that question, kind of giving us his thoughts on everything, and then following that up on a few questions about the game itself and just what this game really means. But here's Chase Handcock after asking him just to kind of sum up what everything means. You've got Charlotte coming in, and you've got the game that honors the 75.
Well, I mean, for me, I've been through it before, so I know that this week is that much more important because we're trying to honor the 75. And then, Charlotte is, trying to be bowl eligible. We're just trying to win our next game. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we just got to take it one day at a time, really, and just try to put last game behind us, and just look forward to winning the next game.
What's this week mean to you personally? You've been through it for a while now.
Every time I go through it, it's a real emotional experience for me because it means a lot, and that was a sacrifice that was made, and so whenever I put the helmet on, I try to make sure that I honor them as much as I can, and so I think last year as we were walking out. I got kind of teary-eyed, and because it really is. It means a lot.
When you talk to the younger guys who haven't been through it, or the coaches even who haven't been through it, what are you saying to them? What are you telling them?
This is why we play. This is why, this is why you're here. This is their story is our story, and we have to continue to, honor them by how we play, and. It's very important, and it seems like we have to touch the helmet when we come in and out of the building, and it seems like, well, it's just a helmet. No, it's bigger than that, and it's just bigger than football. So I think as the week goes along, they'll start to realize that more and more, and then as the coaches talk about the lives that were lost, I think it'll start to stick with them.
Yeah. The game itself, that's the thing that's everyone's here to see on Saturday. What's your early impression of Charlotte? What have you seen? What have you noticed about them this year?
I think the line does a good job of blocking. The running back, it's usually multiple guys having to take him down, so he's a strong runner. The quarterback does a good job too. I've seen him make some tough passes. Step up in the pocket. So I mean, every year that we play Charlotte, we expect their best, and they always give us a good game. So I don't know, I'm just looking forward to it because it's the next game, and like I said, we're trying to win.
The emotion right before this game every year, it seems like the entire place goes from solemn right before you all come out. What's that switch like when it flips from somber, reverent almost, to violent, intense? Let's get how unique of a dynamic is that? Because it seems pretty intense.
I think it's very unique. Because I feel like they're with us out there on the field, and it's just something in the atmosphere that's different. And I think everybody can attest to that. It is sad, and but we rose from the ashes. So we have to continue to move forward and just keep in mind that we carry them with us.
Benny LeMay, the running back.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen him progress last year? Obviously, he was a talented guy, but it seems like he's taken it to another level this year.
I think so. I think he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger, gotten faster. I don't know. I mean, I just remember having to hit him, and you have to bring your pads with you. So, he's probably one of the best leagues in the league right now. So it's going to be a great challenge for us as a defense, and I think we've been doing a good job as far as stopping the run and making sure we shut the offense down. So I think we're just going to have to continue to do that, and I think we'll be fine.
Do you like the fact that it's strength on strength? Their strength's their running game, and your strength is run defense, and it's like, all right, let's line them up and see who's got it.
Exactly. May the best man win. I know what we have. I know what we're capable of. We just have to show up and play like that on Saturday.
That's Chase Handcock giving his thoughts and feelings on the game coming up. Not only his breakdown of Charlotte, just the emotional factor, how important this game is to him as well. When we come back from break, we're going to hear a little bit from Nazeeh Johnson. I got Malik Gant for you as well as we continue on with this edition of The Drive, presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Don't worry. Paul Swann has the wheel on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, November 6th edition. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is The Drive. We're presented by Belltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. We're getting closer to a pretty busy week in Marshall sports. A couple of basketball games to get into. We've also got football coming up on Saturday. Just a programming note, we won't have a regular show tomorrow. Instead, our pregame coverage of Marshall at Eastern Kentucky begins at 5:30 right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. So last couple of days, I've had a chance to catch up with some of the players during player interviews. Doc Holliday was today. Yesterday, had a chance to catch up with Nazeeh Johnson. And really, I started out with him same way I've started out with most of these guys. Just want to get a feeling for what this game is this week. It's Charlotte. It's the plane crash game. For a better way to describe it, this is the game you honor the plane crash victims. And so the significance is real. The symbolism is there. And so I just want to get a breakdown of what this week is like, what this is going to be like for him with this game, and the fact that it's the game that symbolizes the honoring of the 75. And here's Nazeeh's reply to that as we talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, I can't wait this weekend, and it's more important because it's a 75 game, so be back in front of the fans. It's going to be great.
Talk about that game. I mean, obviously you weren't born, so this all happened way before you. But what is your connection? What's the importance to you personally for a game like that, about a tragedy that happened so long ago?
Basically, I wasn't born at the time, but I learned a lot through playing football here, and basically this game put me in the position I am now. Against WKU last year, that game changed my life, and it changed a lot of people's life around the community and stuff like that. So it's a very important game for everybody involved.
For the younger guys who haven't gone through it yet, what are you guys saying to them, or what are you telling them about the whole experience, the whole feeling of this thing?
They're gonna find out during the week because we're doing things with the community this week, like we're going to the fountain and stuff like that. So they're gonna learn, like, it's very serious. We always talk about playing for 75, and now we get to put it on our helmets, our decals, and stuff like that. So if they're not introduced to it, it should be this week.
So this is not a situation where it's just a saying, playing for the 75. I mean, they actually understand.
Yeah.
They know what the meaning of that is.
Yeah,
it's not just a gimmick.
Yeah, they understand the meaning of 75.
So let's talk about Charlotte. I know you saw their release, know what they did last weekend. Tough loss for them, but really impressive. I mean, they haven't had the season they've wanted, but you look at them, they're still a pretty good team despite that record.
Yeah, they're a really good team. They turned the program around since last year. They have some weapons at the running back position, new quarterback. Now from Miami, they got a lot of weapons. They're just young right now.
When you saw that score, what'd you think? You saw how close that game was.
It shocked me. They still proving themselves like we still proving ourselves. So it's gonna be a good game this week. I got used to it, I think, going into my 11th grade year when they started recruiting me. I watched the movie, and then that's basically how I learned everything about martial arts, through the movie. And then I came down for a visit, the fountain, went to the fountain ceremony and stuff like that. So I got involved with it, and then I just became part of it ever since.
What was that experience like for you?
It's a very emotional game. It means a lot to everybody, and I was wearing one of our equipment, the video guys' grandparents on my helmet, and I made a play that basically almost won us the game. So it means a lot to everybody, and just to be a part of it, it's everything. It means a lot.
That's Nazeeh Johnson from earlier this afternoon. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get to Malik Gant. Let's try it. I think we can get to Malik Gant. Here's Malik Gant. Same question to him. Just kind of get a feeling for what this game means to him and everything on top of it.
We know it's a major week coming off of a game where we really felt as though we could have got, and then going into a week where it's a 75 night, a big night for the team, for the community, and for alumni. And we know that there's a lot that goes into this week, and preparation and mentality and everything that's on our minds and on our hearts going into the 75 game. So we know we just have to lock in and fix all the mistakes from last game. So this game will be a better outcome.
What's this game mean to you personally?
A lot. One of the reasons why I came to Marshall, because it's not like any other school. It's way more than football. It's a community that backs you up no matter you're losing, winning, haven't won a game yet, because it's more than just a football going in the air and who wins is who loses. And it's just a community that's had a tragedy is unlike anywhere else. So when you look at everything that's based around this program, there's just so much support throughout the whole community.
Expectations on this game are high. Fans, want this one more than anything because it means so much. A lot of pressure. I'm sure you relish that. The fact that this is a must-win.
Yeah, most definitely. Each year, the 75 night is always. Coach Doc always tells us that each night you put your 75 on your helmet, it's way more than just a game. It's playing for all the people that lost their lives and that night and in the plane crash, and all the people that lost relatives, family members, and all that. And we just had to play with extra momentum and extra energy and everything just for that night, for everybody that had a tragic moment.
Now looking at the game itself, Charlotte, a lot better than their record indicates. If you look at the scoreboard from Saturday, you look at that Tennessee score, you're thinking that was a pretty good performance by them.
Most definitely. Watching the film and seeing how talented their offense is, and they have one of the best defenses in Conference USA with all the talent they have on defense. And watching their offensive film, we know they have a good offense that doesn't make a lot of turnovers. They really know how to take care of the ball and use time of possession. So we know we have to lock in this week and focus on that.
What are the challenges for you this week on that game?
Just focusing as a whole unit, and for me, just to make sure that we don't make the mistakes we made penalty-wise and little minor things at the end of the game that really affected us last week, and make sure we just make adjustments this week.
You want to go 1-0 every single week, whether that's a win or a loss. How do you reset after a week, whether good or bad?
Just having short-term memory, forgetting everything that was negative or positive the week before, and just going into the next week, preparing it the regular way you prepare for a game. When the movie first watched it, I just remember sitting in my mother's room, and we was watching We Are Marshall. And that was probably 2007. I think 2007, I was 10 years old. So I remember just watching it for the first time, and I was like, that it was a tragic story. And ever since then, I wanted to go to Marshall. Down the line, it kind of changed. I wanted to go other places. Then I got back to one school that I always had on my mind was going to Marshall, so I decided to walk on here. And that's just why it's so precious for a 75 night, because that's one of the main reasons why I came here.
The movie resonates with a lot of people, and I think it's going to continue to resonate for a lot of kids for a long time to come. I mean, he's all in. It wasn't just a movie, and it's like wanted to come here because of a movie. I think he wanted to come here and be part of something, be part of the story. Yeah, these guys have unique stories and reasons why they came to Marshall, but it's always good to hear some of that stuff, and we'll have a couple more, I think, tomorrow. We'll try to get that in basketball. But we got basketball coverage coming up tomorrow, 5:30. We're going to go on the air with Belltone Hearing Aid Center. College basketball today. We're going to break down Marshall's game with EKU. That's coming up. We'll go on the air with Steve Cotton at 6:30. Tip off at 7. Then right after that, we'll come back for college basketball wrap-up. And then we'll break down what happened. Hopefully it's a Herd victory. We're talking about game number 1. And the Herd getting off to a good start against Eastern Kentucky. EKU. For our producer, Gabriel Sellerts, I'm Paul Swann. This has been the Tuesday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Back tomorrow, 5:30. Different time than you're used to. 5:30. For our pregame coverage of Marshall basketball. Then we'll be back on schedule for Thursday and Friday. But tomorrow, basketball begins. We'll have our coverage starting at 5:30. If you missed any part of today's show, you can go back and catch it. You can catch it at the website, WRVC.com. Also, we're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio. We are on TuneIn. We're on Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast is where you get us. Good night.
WRVC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Huntington Sports Station.